Dad had always carried a gun. Even when we were kids, he had one stuffed under the seat of his car and in the drawer of his nightstand, never locked away, never out of reach. By the age of 10, I'd heard more lectures about gun safety than a recently enlisted Marine. By my dad's side, I'd put in hours at the shooting range, and I'd place my accuracy with a .38 against any trained marksman. That was why the entire thing was absurd. My life pivoted on the next moments. Small things that could have been changed but weren't. Lines in existence that should have been smudged but weren't. A list of things I'd never be able to alter. People make mistakes every day. Everything happens for a reason. I'd heard those words so many times. I only wish I'd believed them. It was quick. I felt the icy metal in my hand and popped the chamber guard open. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Empty. As the gun spun around my digit, I felt the trigger rub against my finger, creating the tiniest itch. Did I count 6 empty chambers? Wait, I think I saw a... That was a moment I can never get back. Where was the pain coming from? Maybe somebody had pulled a poker from the fireplace and driven it through my chest? No, I was alone. Where was I, anyway? The gun fell to the floor in slow motion, its descent tormenting me as I waited to hear it hit the carpet. But it seemed to be tethered to my body, and my body had not yet fallen. Oh, God, help me. When a person drifts in and out of consciousness, the screams of others sound like her own. They mix inside her head. The person can hear her own moans and the words of those surrounding her, slurred by whatever emotion has squeezed their voice box. I heard my mother yell. Was she yelling at Dad? Her voice was shrill. It was the first time I could remember hearing her exact true emotion. She was angry. Wow, I thought, no longer able to endure the waves of sound and light as I pressed my eyes shut. Don, always the guns! Why? Why? She was hysterical, and I could hear him trying to calm her. It hurt to hear her attack him. It made my chest tighten even more and obstructed the small breaths that I was able to take. I wondered how he'd ever forgive her. Don't, Mom, it's not his fault. Could they hear me? Time was quick and slow all at once. I was Alice falling down the rabbit hole. I heard my sister's voice and felt her hands on my chest. She was on the phone answering questions. I tried to correct her, but the words wouldn't form. I'm conscious. I can hear you. Listen to me. It seemed like mere seconds later when I felt a jolt and realized I was inside the steel cage of an ambulance. All manner of medical supplies jumped about on the metal shelves. Why couldn't I hear the sirens? Ma'am, can you hear me? He was leaning over me, tall and fair, his face kind. Yes, I can hear you. Can't you hear me? He raised himself, holding onto a bar, which was bolted to the roof above him. A second later, he was hovering over me again, something in his hand. Please don't put it on my... His white shirt brushed against my cheeks as he shoved a mask over my face, and then it was dark. I'd always been afraid of the dark. I'd made my parents line the hall with night lights. How long ago? Yesterday? Years ago? There was a lamp in my room which was snuffed only when my dad changed the light bulb. I had to keep the bad guys away. I feared the things which lingered in the shadows, the things I couldn't see. However, this was a whole new darkness. In this darkness lurked anger, hate, deceit, and the claws of creatures I couldn't imagine scraping against the slick floor beneath my feet. My heart raced impossibly fast, and I reached up. I clawed at the contraption covering my nose and lips. It was stuck there, and in the absence of light, I struggled with it. It should have been easy to remove, an oxygen mask at most, but this was no life-saving instrument. I pulled and screeched until the thing flew from my face. It clanked against concrete in the distance. In a beam of light which emanated from a cracked door, I saw it. The muzzle was rusted iron and lay upon the floor. I ran through the darkness to escape its binding, which still clung to my jaws. God, are you there? Where am I? I couldn't stop moving as 4 hooded figures appeared behind me, each having unique, mangled features and arms wrought with decomposition, which reached out to seduce me. The heat that emanated off them burned my skin, causing tiny blisters to appear and disappear. Sweat beaded at my brow and streamed from my forehead. God, help me. I'm scared. I dodged the figures, darting right and left, running in zigzags as though I was running from a predator. They had no eyes, and the flesh against the bones that made up their faces was anything but alive. I ran harder, watching the blood cascade from the wound in my chest. It made puddles on the floor. My foot slipped in the crimson pool under me, and I slid down a corridor past shut doors and blackened windows. I found my feet and immediately learned to dodge the puddles. A genuine fear spewed from that darkness. It was a fear I didn't have time to face. It was my deepest phobia, all the light being sucked from my existence and no one to offer me a torch. It wasn't just the light of the room that escaped me. I was losing the illumination of my soul, and I clamored to reignite it. There were beings chained to the wall, screaming as though in horrific pain, and they reached out to grab me as I ran. God, am I still alive? Could he hear me? Was he struck deaf like my family and the man in the ambulance had been? The tortured souls were pulling at my bloody clothes, and I screamed louder and louder, God, help me! Run, Darby, run. Once again, I was on a stretcher, staring at the man with the kind eyes. Only he'd changed. He was surrounded by a light, which broke in sparks from him and shot across the ambulance, touching every surface. Oh, let me stay here. His hair was longer, browner, shinier. He bent at the waist, and I could smell the ocean breeze on him. He was air and happiness. Hold me, Darby. He didn't speak. His thoughts became my thoughts, and I was at peace. This man loved me. It wasn't the fleeting love of a friend in need. No, this was pure and unconditional. If I had yelled or punched him, if I had hated him, he would have still adored me. I could feel it in the way his eyes settled on mine, offering comfort. This man was my brother or father. He was someone familiar. Don't leave me. Yes, I managed. I didn't need words either, and it was glorious to be heard again. He knew my heart, my mind. He knew my life. Embarrassment latched onto my ribs and squeezed. He'd seen everything. He knew all the things I'd done. This man had a window to what was good and what was evil in me. There was no perfection in my life. I'd never claimed to be without fault. He knew I'd judged. He knew I'd sinned. He knew I was a liar and a thief. No one expects you to be perfect. Do you love me, Darby? Tiny electrical impulses moved from his fingertips to my skin, and the pain was gone. My eyes were glued on him. His face was a place of serenity, a place where I could hide. I did love him. I loved him more than I could express to him. Where was my family? Did I pack my sweater? Yes, my answer interrupted the derailment of my thoughts. Why couldn't I hear anything? No machines, no sirens. I was, without a doubt, dead. Darby, I'm sending you back. I need you to go back for me. Do you understand? His lips were so close, his breath cold against my ear. No, why? I don't want to go back. I want to be with you. This is peaceful. This is nice. This is perfect. Let me stay. His fingers moved my hair, which was pasted to my neck in blood. He was sunshine in my face and love in my heart. Please, don't leave me. You have work to do. There are things I need from you. You will see them, Darby. His focus hardened as though he wanted me to understand the importance of his words. Were those tears? I lost the sensation and warmth of his touch as he pulled away from me. With each sentence, each word, he moved farther from me. Come back, closer, please don't go. I'll see who. His posture became erect, perfect, and he smiled at me. It was the most beautiful smile I'd ever witnessed. He loves me. It was the only thing that mattered. He loved me. You'll figure it out. Before I could protest further, he reached into my chest and grabbed my heart. I sat up on the gurney screaming. The monitors were loud and sounding their alarm. My ear-bending screams sent everyone running from me. The ambulance slammed to a stop, and gauze and instruments wrapped in plastic hit the floor. The EMT returned, and as he flashed a light into my eyes, he hollered his words, not in my thoughts, but for all to hear. She's back. Go!